There's one feeling that Cleveland Browns fans are all way too familiar with. Pain. The drive. The fumble. Art Modell ripping the heart out of your city and moving your Browns to Baltimore, rechristening them the Ravens, and then you have to watch over the next couple of decades as the Ravens become one of the class organizations in the league and they win 2 championships. And even though your Browns came back in 1999, they've been one lousy skid mark after the next. I've been calling them the skid marks for years, and by God, they earned every bit of that moniker. So you're used to pain. You know what this feeling is like. The sad thing is this time, though, the pain is a little different. Because you feel like your team is on the upward trajectory. You feel like you're on an upward swing. You maybe feel like you found your long-term answer at the quarterback position in Baker Mayfield. You feel like you found the right leader, the right head coach in Kevin Stefanski. You feel like you've got an offense that you can count on to at least some degree. And you've got a defensive franchise building block like Myles Garrett. So you're sitting there and saying to yourself, man, this team in Stefanski's first year wins 11 games, gets into the playoffs, beats the Steelers on the road in the wild card round, made Big Ben look washed up and done. And you're feeling really good about yourself and really confident in your team and their chances rolling into Arrowhead on Sunday. And then you watch as one of the dumbest rules in the game comes to bite another team. Yes, the guy fumbles it through the end zone, so let's give it to the other team, even though they never recover it on... Oh, my God. Don't even get me started on that rule. But nonetheless, that is the rule. It is the way the game is played. So it's like the cruelness of the football gods taketh, but then Patrick Mahomes goes out with a concussion in the second half, and you're saying, oh, wait a second. The football gods actually giveth. The Browns have a chance to beat the defending Super Bowl champions in KC. The Browns could potentially go to the AFC Championship game. And yes, they would have to go to Buffalo, but at that point in time, anything is possible. You're potentially looking at being one game away from the Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns, the skid marks of old are no longer. And it just didn't happen. And that's gut-wrenching. It has to be. Hey, I'm a Bears fan. I'm used to mediocrity and suck. You know, so I understand those rare times that you get into the playoffs and things like this happen. It's really, really tough. You know, my team a couple of years ago lost a home playoff game to the Eagles because of a double doink. That's how it goes sometimes. And I know Browns fans have to be really sad, disappointed, also heartened at what they saw out of their team this year, and feeling good potentially about the future. And feeling good about the chances that this isn't the ceiling or the peak for this team. This is just the beginning. It is a step in the journey to winning this organization's first Lombardi trophy. And I understand, like, there are a lot of logical things that you look at and you say, you know what? The Browns certainly could have their best football ahead of them. You know, Kevin Stefanski in this divisional round game coached like a chicken shit. Like, he coached like a rookie head coach. And he coached scared. All of these plays that they drew up where the receivers were running routes short of the sticks on third down. And, you know, when you're in a big-time situation late in the game, you're throwing a couple of dump passes and handing the ball off instead of looking at your number one overall quarterback from a few years ago, Baker Mayfield, and saying, it's in your hands, Baker. Go win it or lose it. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to ride or die with you. But this is your show. This is your chance, your opportunity. And then you don't do that. And then on fourth down, you don't go for it. So you punt back the ball to the Chiefs and you never get the ball back. Like, he played scared. He coached scared. His play calling, especially in the second half, certainly was scared. Don't give me the Baker threw 37 to 38 passes. You could throw 60 passes and coach scared because all the passes are 2 to 3 yard short jobs. You get what I'm saying? Like, stretch the field, take chances. You got to put it in the quarterback's hands. And he didn't do that. So you're thinking, hey, Baker will grow and develop another year. Stefanski as a coach will grow and develop another year. You might get Odell Beckham Jr. back healthy for whatever he's going to give you next year. You feel like if you get some speed at the linebacker position, you'll be right back in it, and you could potentially even be better, do more. You could potentially be talking about the Browns as a Super Bowl favorite coming out of the AFC next year. Like, I understand all of these things come into play, and it probably feels good to feel like you're not watching the same old Browns, but I've got to ask Browns fans, are you so sure about this bright future? Are you that positive that the future is going to be any better than what it is right now? And the reality is, you could think it, you could want it, you could wish it, you could believe it, but that does not mean it's so. Think about some recent examples of where teams thought, hey, disappointing playoff loss, but we'll be back bigger and badder and better than ever. This is just the beginning, and it wasn't. Like, look at the Falcons a few years ago. They were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and they lost. They haven't been sniffing close to that since. My Chicago Bears, 2018, they had an elite defense. And some people were thinking, hey, maybe Mitchell develops another year, and that defense stays elite, and all that crap didn't happen. The Bears get a kicker, they'll be all right. They finally found their kicker this year, and guess what? It didn't matter. They've been 8-8 2 straight years. Don't let the back door into the 7th seed of the playoffs in the NFC fool you. That team sucks. They were riding high after 2018. You can talk all that future talk all you want to, but the bottom line is that doesn't guarantee anything. The year before, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shit. They had a double-digit lead on the Patriots in Foxborough in the AFC Championship game with an elite defense. And it all fell apart in that game. And you're thinking, well, maybe they'll come back and it'll be better. And it's fallen apart. Now they're picking number 1 overall in the draft. The Bears, a couple of years later after that, you got all the fans of Chicago that have any sense anyways, calling for everybody's heads. The head coach, the general manager, the team president, all of them. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. 2016, Tony Romo goes down with the injury. And in comes Dak, and he goes 13-3. And Cowboys fans are thinking, hey, man, it's heartbreaking to lose in the divisional round of the playoffs, but by God, we've got our quarterback of the future to replace Romo. We're going to be good. You've got Zeke. You're going to feed the beast. You've got this great elite offensive line. And a few years later, you're sitting there at 6-10 out of the playoffs. You haven't come any closer to the Super Bowl than that. Think about the Buccaneers in 2015. They took Jameis Winston number 1 overall. You're thinking that he's going to be the franchise guy, and Tampa Bay is going to try and build a consistent winner around him. 6 seasons later, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now going to the NFC Championship game with Tom freaking Brady as their starting quarterback, with guys like Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski for him to throw to. And then the point I'm getting at here is a very important one. In the NFL, there are very few constants and so many things that can change from year in and year out. There is absolutely nothing promised to you from one year to the next. Just because you made it to one spot this year, in no way, shape, or form guarantees you're going to make it the next year. Like when you look at the AFC is tough. It's a dogfight. You had Miami win double-digit games and miss the playoffs. And you've got to expect some other teams, like notably the Chargers, have their young franchise quarterback at Justin Herbert. What are they going to do in year number 2 with him now that they've hired a new head coach? You know what I mean? So you're going to have other teams that get better. You would assume Robert Saleh is going to make the Jets better from day one. Not better than the Bills or the Dolphins, maybe, but they're going to make them better. And I'm looking at the AFC as a picture as a whole. There's no guarantee. The Cleveland Browns, sure, in that division with Big Ben being old, done, maybe gone, And the Ravens, it feels like, kind of peaking at a certain point. Maybe there's an opportunity there to win that division. But how much better could the Bengals potentially get next year with a healthy Joe Burrow in an offseason to add more pieces around him? Maybe the Ravens do even better next regular season. Maybe the Steelers, being well coached by Mike Tomlin in the regular season at least, find a way to win double-digit games again. And what happens if you're the Browns and you have some big notable injuries to some of your marquee players? What if teams start to figure out how to defend against your running game with Chubb and Hunt? Nothing is guaranteed, so I understand you want to make yourself feel better. And you want to sit there and believe that the future is bright. It could be. I can't sit there and say that the Browns won't make the Super Bowl next year. The point is, though, they are just as likely to get to the Super Bowl as they are to be a 6-10 team next year. Because you don't know what's going to happen from one year to the next. No teams are ever 100% the same from one year to the next. You always have changes in personnel, changes in coaching staffs, and changes in a variety of different ways. You got to look at how the schedule breaks down. You got to look at momentum. You got to look at injuries. Plus, you're looking at having a whole off season to prepare, which you're going to say, well, the Browns did all of this without having a whole off season to properly, fully prepare like you normally would have with the new coaching staff. Yeah, that's true. But other teams face the same challenges. So maybe other teams will be even better next year because they got that entire offseason. In theory, who even knows what will happen in the future? And that's the point. Just because your team did something great now doesn't mean that they'll be back bigger and better than ever next year. Now, you're going to look at the Chiefs and you're going to look at the Bills and you're going to say, well, it has for them. Yes, certainly. It can. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying you shouldn't be so cocksure automatically that that's what's going to happen. You're just as likely to end up like the Bills or the Chiefs as you are the Bears or the Cowboys or the Jaguars. And let's even look at the Green Bay Packers, a notable example. They got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time playing for them in Aaron Rodgers. That 2010 season, they dealt with all those injuries and found a way to get into the playoffs. They were road warriors, and they went on and won the Super Bowl that year. The next regular season, 2011, they come back 15-1. Aaron Rodgers is the league MVP, and you're thinking, holy shit, the Packers might have a dynasty here. And now we're in the 2020 season, and this now represents the best chance by far for the Green Bay Packers to win a second ring under Aaron Rodgers. And the point I'm getting at is if you had told Packers fans a decade ago that now in 2020 season, heading into 2021, Aaron Rodgers would still be chasing his second ring, most Packer fans and most football fans, most NFL fans would have called you nuts. They would have called you insane. They're saying there's no possible way. And yet here we are. Believe in the power of the positivity of the future all you want. Don't just let it be fool's gold, though, and blind you to reality that nothing is guaranteed. That's why these losses should be heartbreaking, because you don't know what's going to happen from one year to the next. You don't know how things are going to play out in 2021. You don't know. If anything, I think you should be a little concerned about why your head coach, who's a candidate for Coach of the Year, was scared to put the game in the hands of the number one overall pick quarterback that's supposed to be the face of your franchise. If anything, that would raise bigger concerns to me about Baker Mayfield and the future of this franchise than it would anything else. I'm not taking a shot at Baker. I'm just saying, WTF? I think you got as many questions as you do answers at this point in time. You had a really good season. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, you're just one of 31 other losers. There can only be one champion. You have this offseason coming up. The Browns aren't done. The Browns aren't settled. But please, please, please just don't automatically think and believe that just because your team made it to the Divisional Round this year and had a chance against a Chiefs team that was without Patrick Mahomes a good portion of the second half, that automatically means they'll be back in the same spot or even better next year. Because as recent history has proven, it's more likely that's not the case than it is.